is San Domenico's church, St. Dominic's church, and this is a beautiful painting here of Catherine catching the young man's head in her hands after he was guillotined. It's a very beautiful story. Catherine meets this young man who's in prison and he's going to be beheaded. She becomes, within a couple of days, his spiritual mother. And she said, don't be afraid to die, you'll be with the Lord. And she gives him instructions. She takes him to church, and he receives his first communion. And she walks him to the guillotine. She lays her head on the guillotine to see what it would feel like. And so she stands under the guillotine, and she catches Nicholas' head in her white scapular. And she sees this young man enter the side of Christ. He's saved. And so Catherine, of course, is very disappointed because she's still on earth and she's still far from the beloved. But this young man gained so much courage and so much love from seeing Catherine, and his love for Catherine and his love for Jesus become one, and she's his spiritual mother. And he goes to the, all fear leaves him. He goes to the guillotine with great joy and great peace, murmuring the name Catherine, Jesus, Jesus, Catherine. She so represents Christ to this young man that he enters his death with great joy. And this is Catherine's, really, Christ's victory through Catherine. We're now in the archives of Santa Sabina, and we have something very special here that is wonderful. Speaking of dialogues of St. Catherine.
Right. This is one of the earliest copies of the dialogue of Catherine. It's probably 1390.
Oh my.
It's a handwritten, hand-painted copy.
That means it's 700 years old.
Yes, at least.
Oh
one of the original copies of that meditation in her mystical contemplation with Jesus.
She'd be in union with Jesus and she would dictate to the friars.
And she had friar secretaries. Okay. Because she couldn't write herself. And so then very nice copies were made, manuscript copies. One of our treasures here in the archives. As is this treasure. This is a papal bull, which is really the credentials that a preacher has from the Pope to go out and preach. So Dominic actually had this. This is a relic. This is a relic of Dominic.
Oh Lord, you have to be careful with that.
It's one of the original pieces here. A papal bull would have been carried by the preacher to present to a bishop to say these authoritative preachers. Right.
Oh, this is so beautiful.
Great history here.
Beautiful. Wonderful. The heart emerges in Catherine's thoughts as the physical reality. It is, but it is much more, as it is the seat of all human response. What Catherine is saying here is that the center of our person is the heart, not just the physical heart, but it's where all our responses come from, how we deal with life, or how we don't deal with life. So Catherine is a woman of the heart. So we find expressions such as heart and spirit, heart and affection, cold heart, hard heart. And that, when Catherine says that, the hard-hearted person is the person who is practically lost to other people and lost to God. The sin of all sins is having a hard heart. God cannot touch a hard heart. He wants to. His grace is there, but the person doesn't want it. Lift up your heart. It is in the heart that good or evil thoughts reside. From the heart that good or evil desires come. Within the heart that God dwells. Now, Catherine is just giving us this teaching here that's very powerful, that we all need a heart, a spiritual heart transplant. You know, they're doing so many heart transplants in hospitals. We need a spiritual transplant. That is an exchange from my heart to the heart of the Lord. Now, I don't really mean that we'll have exactly what Catherine had. The Lord did take her heart and they had an exchange of hearts. But we want to ask the Lord for a new heart, a spiritual heart. Ezekiel 36, I will put into you a new heart. Well, if the Lord puts a new heart into our heart, we're certainly going to be enthused, and we certainly will not have a cold heart. So watch your heart. Watch your desires. Catherine is a person of the heart, and she's a person of desire. And where our heart is, there's our thoughts and our life, where your treasure is. What do you think most about the day? What do you think most? What are you concerned about? That God is dwelling in your heart? Do you stop and think at least once a day, twice a day, that Jesus in my heart grows stronger so that I can relate to other people the way Catherine did, so that I can relate to other people as Jesus did? It's sad to say, but true, that we don't do our homework. You know, there's an expression like, we don't do our work, it doesn't get done. You know, when we don't prepare ourselves for things, we miss out. So do our homework, like take a checkup over your heart to see where are your desires. And if they're in the Lord and the Lord is in there and he's working, life is so different.